nobody gets close to where they are destroying.
Yeah, we can also have this kind of activities somewhere around Ife too.
No, it's everywhere in Australia because you know the gold is from that. And I think there was a time I listened to the minister and the efforts they were doing to bring in major players to do the mining. Part of the problem is that because we have neglected that part of it and concentrated on oil for a long time, you know, nature abhors vacuum. So some people now took advantage of that and started doing this illegal mining. So what I would suggest is that one, the Ministry of Solid Minerals should be up and doing and be able to identify where these minerals are, the major players in these areas, try to rein them in and make sure that they put them in cooperative societies and then work for government so that it will be planned, not that people will do things and destroy farmlands and our communities. But if the government steps in, they can eradicate these illegal miners and make sure that the mining business itself is official.
We are so blessed, yet we are poor.
Yes, that's what I want to take up from where Mayor stopped. This administration, the former administration in Osun, set up a gold refinery, working with some Zimbabwean businessmen. They set up a gold refinery in Osu, or what's that place called?
Osu?
Yeah, where they used to sell
Akara.
bean cake. You know, the refinery was working fine. Ideally, government should have moved in quickly, get rid of the illegal miners. If private sector show interest, let those private sector guys come in, bring the right equipment, because with the right equipment, you don't need to
do all this.
Dig, because they are digging at random.
Yeah.
And there are times when they will dig, and they will not see gold there. But with the right equipment, you can pinpoint where you have gold deposits. You just go there and go there, dig your thing, without this kind of damage to the ecosystem. Yeah. So that is what government should do. This thing is good business, and gold, which we have in abundance, can actually earn us big forex, foreign exchange. The other, when I visited the gold refinery, they gave me 1 bar of gold, and the amount of money that they told me that size was going for. In fact, it's a kind of life-changing money. I remember that as we were joking, what's his name? Dr. Ruben Abati said he's going to take it away. I said, when everybody has surrounded you, there's no way you can take this gold away. You know, because it's a lot of money that we are looking at. Government should go to Zamfara, see how they can make tremendous money out of this by bringing in private sector players who would work with government to make sure that
especially the big players from South Africa.
Yes. Look at South Africa.
Largely to mining.
Gold is consistent.
Yes.
You know, it does not suffer the kind of fluctuations.
It appreciates.
Yes,
the fluctuations.
like better than oil.
Yes, it doesn't. You can plan with it.
Yes,
it's stable. It's not like oil that tomorrow you can hear that it has
today
crashed.
and appreciate tomorrow.
No, Botswana, they rely on diamond and the rest. The price is constant. That is an area where we should focus on. We can't be blessed with all of these resources. Look at Zamfara, one of the poorest states in Nigeria. But in terms of what God has deposited in that state, it's probably the richest state in Nigeria. You know? So we have to, instead of allowing these foreigners to come into our country, explore these materials, and then take them out of the country, we need to ensure that there is sanity in the area of exploration of these minerals, create a template, come up with regulation that will ensure that action to that community are really troubling, and we need to do something.
We are too busy with oil. If we get busy with our other natural resources and concentrate on it, we could actually...
Yeah, I think oil has been a cost to this country. Before oil, we were very good in agricultural produce. At the time, we were very good in manufacturing. But the more we made this petrodollar, a lot of things went. We just forget about every other thing and concentrate on oil. That's why I believe that if we put the same kind of effort that the multinationals assisted us in doing in the oil industry, if we put that in the solid mineral industry, we will earn a lot of money. Because, like I said, gold's value is constant, and we have a large deposit of gold. So the federal government should get involved. Governments, naturally, both federal and state, to get involved and invite big players who will be able to. Because one of the things that work for us in the oil industry, if you don't forget, is that most of the development came because of the activities of the majors. So if you can attract big players in the gold industry, especially from South Africa and Australia, I think the government will be able to earn a lot of money from it.
The communities destroyed farmlands, polluted water bodies with mercury and lead, thereby endangering the health of people. On the 15th of January 2022, TVC News crew, led by Nelson Etta, visited Attorney Ijesha and brought back these reports.
On the 15th of January 2022, when the world was just settling into a new year, TVC News crew set out for a journey to Osun State. Our destination is Attorney Ijesha. In Atakomosa East local government area of the southwest state.
Since 1601, and there's no development. I don't think we're asking for too much.
The mission was to unravel the mystery behind operation of illegal gold mining and refining by foreign nationals, particularly some Chinese. Illegal gold mining and refining thrive in
Okay, good evening, everyone. Am I audible to every participant here? Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Good evening.
Why the noise? Lydia.
Can you mute everybody, please?
Okay, apologies for the interruption. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I would like to welcome you to this month's edition of Women in Mining Training Institute. Before we proceed, permit me to give a brief introduction for those that are just joining us today. The Women in Mining Training Institute is a training wing of Women in Mining Nigeria, and it was initiated by our president and founder, Honorable Engineer. Oh, apologies. I'm guessing. Please, can we all mute to avoid further interruptions? Thank you so much. So yes, the Women in Mining Training Institute. This is the training wing of Women in Mining in Nigeria. It was founded by our national president and founder, Honorable Engineer Janet Adeyemi, to provide a broad range of knowledge and education on salient issues in the mining. This platform brings together relevant stakeholders in the sector to discuss on certain issues bordering on mining, business, gender equality, gender justice, and other relevant topics in the sector. Okay, am I audible to everyone? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Am I still audible? I don't want.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So this Women in Mining Training Institute, we hold our classes on the third Thursday of every month. We hold it on Zoom, the venue is Zoom. We also live stream on YouTube as well, and you can also check out YouTube for future references. And as well, all our videos are uploaded on our website. This is to ensure that those that, due to the time difference, anyone that misses this edition can always catch up with us. Our time is 4 p.m. prompt. On that note, I would like to thank each and every single one of you for joining us for this month's edition. And I would like to call on the president, Honorable Engineer Janet Adeyemi, for her address and a brief introduction, an overview introduction of the speakers. Thank you so much.
Gani, can you Lati, please put the profile of Mr. Matthew on the screen.
Okay, we are working on that. I think the network has prevented us from sharing it, but let me stop and reshare.
Yeah, sorry for the network. There's little or nothing anybody can do about network issue when it decides to happen. It's exciting having you all today again for another WIMTI session. But this one is quite interesting because it cuts across all sectors, whether you are in Morocco mining, whether you are in gemstone mining, whether you are anything. As long as you are dealing with nature, you are dealing with environment, it affects all. And it's a real privilege to bring in gurus. We brought in two special gurus in today because of the sensitivity of the topic we are going to talk on. And when I say guru, you find out that Women in Mining is an association that doesn't boost professionals. When you talk of, oh, you have PhD in this or that, it does not matter to us because mining attracts all. It's an investor-laden field. It's a field where you find housewives, you find ordinary people, you have doctors, you have lawyers working, you understand, to make a living. So it's an income-earning field. And when you need a professional, if you are so successful, you can engage one. But there's something that must be respected, the fundamental rights of everybody. You don't tramp on the fundamental rights of anybody, you understand, in the process of mining. So today we have brought in Mr. Matthew Hales to speak on community engagement and sustainable development as tools to ameliorate poverty in the mining communities. Matthew, I accidentally met, and we have become brothers since then. He's one of those I call the daring one. When somebody dares to make a difference, to make an impact, he's gradually building a global community around ASM, looking at issues in the mining sector. So I'm proud to have been associated with him. You know, Americans, they dare a lot of things. They are bold. You understand? Somebody living a whole comfort of his home state, you know, to go into the wild, you understand, and start looking at means of sorting out issues. So today we are looking at that topic, and I don't want to delve too much on the topic because, you know, it entails a whole, a lot of things. When you are talking about community engagement, you want to look at the stakeholders, you want to look at, that is some of the tools you want to look at the engagement mechanisms, you want to look at social impact, and a whole lot of it. So today I just want to implore us to relax. Let's listen, put our questions together, and I can see Dr. Okezie, we have done a lot together in terms of community engagement in some of our projects. So I'm excited we are all here, and quite a number of people I might not be. And I saw our chairman all the way from Indonesia, you know, joining. So I'm proud of us all. Let us all rub minds and see how we can make the world a better place. Every day we are hearing that the temperature is rising. We are seeing droughts, we are seeing rains, we are seeing everything happening. We all witness what happened in Dubai. These are cumulative impacts of what we have done to the society. This is the time to start retreating from bad methods of doing things. So today we will look at that, and then when it's we carefully chose two topics, you understand, that affects the ordinary man, not necessarily the investor alone, even the ordinary man living in mining community. So I will quickly ask Dolarine to read through the profile of Mr. Matthew before he makes his presentation. Once again, I want to say thank you all for joining, and I know that more people will come today because of the interesting topic. Thank you so much. Dolarine, over to you to read the profile.
Thank you so much, Madam President, for that wonderful address. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Matthew Hales. Mr. Matthew Hales is an advocate for artisanal and small-scale mining communities. As co-chairman of the Global Community Miners Forum and creator of the Dr. Mining Manhattan AI project, he leverages his field experience in Kenya to pioneer artisanal and small-scale gold mining support since the year 2017. His initiatives range from establishing safety measures, training centers, to eco-friendly gold processing methods. Mr. Hales extends community support through programs for children's prosthetics and rehabilitation. He is also pivotal in organizing local and national mining boards in Kenya that aim to enhance ASM sector practices. Affiliated with the Artisanal Mining Advocate, he co-founded the GCMF, facilitating global dialogue amongst miners. Additionally, he leads the transition of over 4,000 miners in Logorian, Kenya, to sustainable agriculture through Farmers of Gold. He heads the Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners Association of Kenya, driving policy improvements for the sector's advancement. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew Hales, for the opportunity to hear from you, and you can take over the floor for your presentation. Thank you. You've been given sharing rights as well to share your screen.
Okay, thank you. All right. My name is Matt, as you know. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm not used to that, but that's really nice. Been spending a lot of time here in Kenya since 2016. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. And we'll start with my PowerPoint. And I think the best thing I can do is share with you all is my experience from the beginning, because I started with community engagement with dorms, building dorms near a place called the Masai Mara Triangle, the north end of the Serengeti. And that project went so far, but it wasn't my well, it was my project, but there happened to be gold mining in that town, and that town's name is Logorian, Kenya. So I'd been there for like 2 years, and I didn't realize there was mining there. That's kind of how oblivious I was, and it was kind of in the downtown village area, and we were kind of out in the rural area at a school. So, as you know, any person, I got curious about the gold, and I wanted to see what it was all about. And so I asked, and I went and I saw what I first saw when I went in there was, let me see if I can get here to some of my first views was the women in the ponds and some of the mining. Guys crushing rocks here. There's a young guy that was doing that. And just the basic stuff we're all familiar with, but I'd never seen anything like it. So I was like, I had no idea that that's what mining consisted of. I'm gonna sort through some of these here. I'm gonna get through a few of these slides, but let me go over here to just to the beginning. So what happened was I met with Simon O'Doyle, the chairman. He was the local chairman of one group, but it was not working very well. So I talked to him about it, and I said, "Hey, why don't I want to do something here? I need a project, and I want to stay in Kenya." My personal journey kind of I didn't want to go back home. That was my motivation. So I knew nothing about mining. I walked in there, I guess just like anybody else learns mining, and I walked in and just started asking questions and figuring it out. And we ended up starting Farmers of Gold, and it was just a small group. This is our website here. If you let's see this one, it's farmersofgold.com. We put that together. And Jaramba, Simon O'Doyle. Let's see if I get some pictures here. A lot of video here and stuff. But I saw basically a lot going on. So I realized I couldn't. There's a few videos on what I walked into and how I saw it, but I didn't know anything. So we just decided to put a group together and start organizing the miners and start talking about safety gear. So one of the first things we did was I said, well, let me try to get some safety gear because nobody was wearing any safety gear. So I decided to talk to a few of my friends back home, and I told them a little bit about what was going on. And at the time, there was basically the Walgorian mining community. They had the mines, the landowners, shafts, ponds, everything. And I was taking around and showing everything. Gold buyers and all the basic things. So I thought, well, what can I do? Just a single guy. And when I travel with earplugs because I change locations a lot. So I like to put in earplugs so I can sleep. So I honestly thought, the ball mill crusher guys, it's so loud. I said, I'm going to give these extra earplugs out. And they were really receptive to the whole idea, and they really liked the earplugs. They were like, these are really great. And they really never used anything like them before. And you just put them right in your ear. So I got to talking, and this is Simon right here. I don't know if you can see him. I'll zoom in a bit. That's Simon here, Jaramba, we call him. And me and this guy here, Linus Tomboy, we just decided, hey, if I keep coming back, I'll bring some safety gear, and we'll organize what's called Farmers of Gold, and we'll just start to hand out safety gear at first. And so that's exactly what we did. And like any good, foreigner, I guess, I was feeling pretty good giving away this safety gear. And we started by giving them out to the women, actually. So, because the women were in the ponds and working and doing all these things. So you can see I bought a lot of gumboots there. And I had some donors from the US contribute to that. And ultimately, we ended up building a demonstration site. I bought a shaker table and a jaw crusher, and we had a ball mill, and we got the whole thing licensed and everything. This is actually the plant here, the mercury-free demonstration plant. And here's our logo we created, the water tank for the shaker table here. And so we had a pretty good first year. And one of the things that I noticed is that our site kind of outshined the mining right next door to it. And so it kind of became a target. And as you well know, a lot of people who've worked in the mining sector is someone like me comes in and we have good intentions. Maybe we try to mine and do some things, but we end up getting too political. And this site did get a little bit political. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, about what we learned from that endeavor and everything like that. But this was a very important step for us to set up something. Down here, there's mine shafts over here. And just to this side, there's washing ponds and everything over here. So we decided to set up right here. And inside of this building, there's a training center. And there is there is, okay, this is not outside of there, but here's our jaw crusher. So we set this up. You can see our ball mill here in the background. And we had a goodwill lady say, hey, I'm going to pay for this jaw crusher so people can use it for free. So one of the problems with that was when I started talking to these guys, this is a young guy, he's probably going to be doing this, but they weren't too happy about the jaw crusher because, as you know, many of the women who are crushing rocks in the older museums, that's their job. You know, they crush a bag of rocks, and that's what they get paid to do. So I realized they said, if you're crushing rocks for free, what you're going to be taking our jobs because we don't pull rocks out of the pits. So we started to kind of say, okay, all right, maybe that's not the best strategy, just having everybody do their rocks for free. And then, people got a little territorial over the rock crusher, and they wanted to be the only one to use it. And it was the kind of project that needed to be ran and maintained by somebody every day, whoever the owner is, every single day. So since this project, all of this equipment is now in individual mining sites. So I would say to anybody considering building a demonstration site that they actually consider going into an existing mining site and looking at adding a piece of equipment like this to the existing, take an assessment of the project and say, what is a well-run mining operation in an area look like, and can we partner with them and bring in one extra piece of equipment, as opposed to building something kind of separate, which tends to get a little bit too much attention, unless you can run it full time yourself. Because mining is mining, and it has to be run by itself. It can't really be outsourced. It has to be managed well and strictly. But we did get a chance to demonstrate how all this equipment works to the entire community. Back here behind the rock crusher, just behind this wall, is all the ponds. So it was easy for them to come right through the wall or through the fence and actually come and crush their rocks when they wanted to. And let's see if we can get in here a little bit and see some of the shaker tables. So one of the things was we were also proving is this cost effective? So we shared the cost of what this costs and how much it costs to run. And this is a 3-phase powered one. I would recommend a single phase or an engine ran one. This 3-phase isn't available everywhere. But so we shared the model of like, okay, this is what your investment would be, and this is how much it costs to maintain, and this is how it works. So very effective that way. Let's see what we have here. We also brought in mercury retorts to kind of show how they worked. People don't really trust the mercury retorts because they don't know what's happening inside of this here when the gold disappears in there to capture the mercury here. So one of the angles we've taken with mercury retorts, for instance, we say, hey, you're losing money when you're just letting mercury go into the atmosphere. So we bring it back to the money part and we say, you can recapture 98% of that mercury that's in that amalgamated gold with this tool. And if you have it, then you don't have to trust me. You can just try using it. And then we've made them available as well. So this here is our shaker table. And let me see here. You guys can hear me okay? It started to rain here, so it's quite noisy. That's why I put on my headphones, but are we doing okay?
Yes, we are. We can.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
yeah.
Okay, great. So one of the other things we wanted to demonstrate was this shaker table here. Well, set it up, and this is a gravity separator. It fills up with water here on the table, and then it you can see this is our Ministry of Environment here, and some of our Ministry of Mining. They came all the way out to the place to see it, and you can see that the water pushes the lighter dirt off of the top, and then the concentrate goes down the middle and ends up on the far side, and the black sand separates and the gold separate from the dirt. And one of our issues with this project is we didn't have our own shaft. So there was some politics that we don't want the American having his own shaft. He's going to compete with the large scale mining. He's going to, and people just complained, as people do, So But the table served a great purpose, and it's actually in operation in another county at the moment, and no problems whatsoever. It's integrated with an already existing operation. And so now instead of one demonstration site, we have 6 sites that we can go to at any time we want that are fully operational, and all of the equipment's being used. So as people talk about building demonstration sites, it sounds really great, but it's not a local miners project. It's going to be an NGO project, or it's going to be something like that, and it's going to miss the mark of what my goal was, is to create an income for the chairman's position and his office, and then make the site self-sustaining, but without a clear handover to the chairman, which I could have done, I suppose, but I would have, it's kind of like, how do you navigate that? Who's going to run it? And it even caused the chairman problems because people thought he was getting extra favor and things like that. So one of the things that I learned in this process is angle of approach. That's a very key thing that I've come up with, is angle of approach. And what I mean by is, if you come in and you shine and you build a really nice, a nice demonstration site like this, and mercury free, and it's really great, it's kind of separate from the community. So one of the things I like to look at is, you want to come in and line up with the community the way it's operating. You don't want to exceed anything that anybody's doing in the beginning. You just want to pick up how they're doing and do things the way they're doing it if you're going to start an operation, and then come in with slightly better stuff. The next step process is, if you make it too far out of reach, no one can follow that lead. It's just going to seem like somebody else's idea, and it's going to kind of miss the mark. But here you can see how the table separates. Here's the black sand, and ideally the gold would be coming right over here. And when it's calibrated right, the gold will come right off of this side into this chute, and then the black sand here, and then the rest of the tailings go off the side here, as you can see. This is a mercury-free process. However, even when you get it into concentrate, you have to have a process of smelting or heating it if you're not going to use mercury. So even when someone says, yeah, shaker tables are great, you're still going to probably want to run that through mercury, because you can get the gold out very easily. You can pan it, as you know, but it takes more time. And some of those things people haven't had the skill set for. But we had this little furnace here that we brought out. And I'll be honest, I lost some gold here because I wasn't sure how to do it. I was learning along with everybody else. Oh, and this was also our gold detector. And we found out this doesn't work very well because we're digging on reefs and the gold is very fine. And even though people say, yeah, it works really great, it would probably work well with chunks or nuggets of gold. But with the reef being, so what happened with this thing was interesting. But the reef being quite thin gold, just the small particles, we got to crush all the rock. We found out that I had some guys that were taking this and telling people that this thing works, and they were charging them money, and they were telling them there was a reef there, and they were digging there, and they weren't finding anything. And I was like, no, I'm taking this thing back, because you guys are just having people dig, like it was mentioned earlier in the video, that we want to know where to dig. So I don't trust this machine very much at all. So any detectors I don't trust as much as someone who's already dug and hit the reef. So here's my friend using it here, Jeremy, and this is my secretary here. And it seemed like it should work, but it's really difficult. It makes noise, but you can't really tell. It's making variables, and then the needles are supposed to cross. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd put all my effort into this detector, just from my own experience. And then this thing, this crucible is a bit deep for this one, but it's electric, and this water runs through these things to keep the copper pipe cool. But it'll heat up at just as hot as it can get. This works really well. But this, I would say, if you bring in one of these, you want to bring in someone who's used them, can show you how to use it. One of the things I didn't realize is when you pour the gold, which we only had a small amounts. But when we pour it, if the thing isn't hot as well, it'll splash right out. So I learned that the hard way. I probably lost, I don't know, probably $100 worth of gold learning how to pour. So, and we also brought in this thing. I don't know if you're familiar with this scale here. This is a normal scale here on the right side. This here is a density meter, and with amalgamated gold like here, it's not great because amalgamated gold has air in it. But once you've heated it, and you heat it into your 10-gram chunks, this is an excellent machine to tell you the purity of your gold. So you weigh it dry on the top, and then you weigh it in the water the second time. And the way it disperses water, there's a different density, and gold being one of the heaviest metals, it'll give you very accurate reads on gold. So if anyone has doesn't have one of these that they're weighing their gold dory bars with, I wouldn't trust them for a minute because of the gold plating and all the fake gold people that do, there's some amazing, you can plate gold, you can do different things. But this is one of the other value addition things we brought so that the guys in town would, who were getting the 10 grams here, then they would melt it, and then they'd be able to use this machine. This one's still in use out in Montgomery County. It's being used by the former governor, and he has a CIP plant. And he realized the local buyers are cheating their scales a bit. So this gives him an accurate read, so he already knows what his gold is worth before he even takes it. So this was another value addition piece, a practical piece of equipment that's very, very useful. This was about $1,000, but you might be able to get them cheaper today. And of course, we do the grams by color and weight, and then there's a local buying price every day. This is a better look at the office area. This is the shaker table, and this is we also had a training center right here, and we would also register members. We started doing IDs. If you can see here, we got an ID card printer, and we started printing ID cards. And if you can get to this point where you can work with a chairman and say, hey, why don't you start printing ID cards, and you have a IT technical guy at a cafe nearby or something, he can print these cards, and you would be surprised how much dignity this gives a miner. When they see their name on an ID card on a registered to a company, then they're an official miner. This brings a level of dignity and belonging and to an otherwise, everyone for themselves kind of mining. ID cards, we charged for them too. We charged like $2. What was it? $2 for the card itself, and then I think that was it. Another $2 for registration fees. So it was like $5 US to become a member and get an ID card, and they're nice. They're good quality cards, and there I am right there, 001. So that was in 2020. But you can see we had a very high response with the 4,000 members that we have registered today that have their, hopefully they all have their ID cards. That's one self-help group in Logorian, and it's a little bit more what they look like. But I got to say there's a lot of value in this psychologically and everything else. And it also stopped the police from harassing the people that had these cards. We have a lot of miners from Tanzania that come up over the border because we're near the southern part of Kenya, the southwest, and kind of near the Lake Victoria a little bit, but we're just near the border of Tanzania. So even if the Tanzanians had one of these from us, the police were not harassing them as much. And it did bring a real sense of community to the community, and a sense of identity. And people really, really do appreciate seeing their face and their name on a well-printed ID card. This guy was also our environmental cleanup guy. Well, he turned our site into the really pretty gardens that it is. His name's Jeremiah. And this was all a mining area, so this is all land reclamation here. These were pits. And so we just decided, the one thing good about the site was we decided that we would grow a garden in there and make a nice place for the miners to come and, you know, do their business and everything. And some plants and gardens here. And just on the other side of this fence, I don't know if I have a picture of it, but this is all of the dig up areas, you know, with the pits, and it's, you know, this has all been reclamated. And that was done by the gentleman there. And this is our tree farm here. You can see we planted a lot of trees, and there's our jaw crusher there in the background. And even this crops here was all planted, but this was all a business that I really didn't do this. I just facilitated it to get started. And that's the other thing that I found is the more you use the existing community, the better off you're going to be. And these village mining communities have doctors, schools, everything there. I mean, we know, but if you utilize these doctors and these schools and even the preachers and everything to help the chairman solve even domestic problems, you know, the chairman makes money from solving conflicts and writing contracts between miners and landowners and different things like that. So we ended up having some high-level officials come out, plant some trees even. And so this site was a really good, strong thing for us to get started and got us established. Let's say again? Oh, sorry. I didn't get that. Hello? Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, so this is the Ministry of Environment. And this is one of the things I think was probably a mistake on the Planet Gold project. And not to be critical of them, but their angle of approach was to the Ministry of Environment. And as you know, the UN doesn't see things the same way that an in-country person sees things. So Kenya is very good at giving the stories that the NGOs want, but practical projects, they really struggle to get started. So that's one of the things we really moved into was starting to look at practical projects. Like this is one of our our zebra garbage cans because we have zebras in the area. And he's saying, don't litter, you know, feed me, I'm hungry. So this is a holistic approach. It's not just, okay, we're going to eliminate mercury, but we're going to do things like we're going to go out and clean up garbage day, you know, clean up some garbage and relocate it to places. And here's a look at our training center. And it was right in the mining area, so we could do it right here. And this was really nice, really practical. And we got a lot out of these meetings as well. Because you're not pulling people into a hotel, you're becoming part of the community. And I was told by a UN person that I'm a tent pole and I'm putting up a tent, and if I leave, that it will collapse. And I was like, I don't see myself like that. You know, this is something that I have my reasons for, you know, wanting to be in Kenya, the weather, mainly my health, and leaving some things behind me in the US, some habits of, you know, I'll be very honest, I don't drink anymore, but maybe in the US I used to. So finding a new life here it was everything to me. I had to fight for it, you know, because the community they were all happy to see me, but you know, if you're serious, they'll make sure you're serious. And what you're looking at here was some ugali giveaway during Corona, when they shut down our mining. And that's when we realized the power of our advocacy, you know, and we wrote a letter to the government saying that we were an essential business because all of our miners are, you know, living off the money they're making from mining. And so we agreed to make masks and everything. And we started to say, we'll help spread the word about Corona and become part of the solution. And they let us go back to mining. And we were one of the first mining groups to kind of get the clearance to go back to mining as an essential business. So that was good. But there's a few other things, because I don't want to talk too long, but the involvement with the entire schools, one of the things about the schools that we've looked at doing, here's one of the pictures of the girls that lost their legs and prosthetics process that we do. This was in a motorcycle accident. I wasn't quite related to mining, but they're a mining family. And there's so much to cover, but this is a basic site layout of how we had it laid out. And let's get into the practical projects. We started working with Solidaridad to build the national ASMAC, which is the Artisanal Small-Scale Miners Association of Kenya. So that came after Farmers of Gold, and we just rolled into it. We duplicated it, and you'll see my chairman, where's my main chairman now? Dan Odita, he's somewhere. But the same, these are other groups similar to Logorian. So we came together, and there's Simon and me, and we started this a couple years ago, and then someone else from Indonesia told us, Gatot Sugiarto told us, let's make it international. So, and now we've got Janet here with us representing Nigeria, and we just couldn't be happier that we're putting together groups, mining groups and leadership and chairmen from different countries to get together and advocate on things together. So, for instance, we advocated against too much military interaction in South Africa a month or two ago on request from our chairman from South Africa, and our chairman of the GCMF wrote a letter to the public, and then it got published in the news, and then I had to go on the news and explain why I was talking about the mining in South Africa. And we just were saying, we advocate, if you're going to bring in the military, create a dialogue so it's not just a crackdown, and then after the crackdown, what happens? Everything goes back to normal. Let's leave it up for dialogue. Can we allocate some land for artisanal mining? 80% of the miners that mine are community-oriented people. And, one of the things we need to teach some of our people around us, our leaders, is exactly what the mining process looks like. So if you can see here, we mapped out what our mining looks like. And I won't go through all this, but I can show you, get all of these documents about the stage 1, and then it goes to stage 2, and then down to stage 3, and then, oh, this is stage 1 over here, sorry. Stage 1 here, and then 2 and 3 here, up to large-scale leaching. So we get about 25% of our gold from mercury, and then we get about up 65% of our gold from the local vat leaching, the unagitated tanks, and then we get up to about 90% of the gold when it goes to the large-scale mine and to be finished processing. So we just started taking on everything in front of us as it came along, and this is our chairman now of the Artisanal Small-Scale Mining Association. And really, when we started this organization, it really did help feed the others. And this is me just recently explaining the Dr. Mining Manhattan project. And it basically works on WhatsApp, and it's an AI project. This is also a really nice practical project, and I'll show you that in just a second and show you how you can talk to it. This is our main office. So what we did is I switched from a demonstration site, which was over here, into a main office. So this main office now has the TV, it has internet, it has everything, it has the desk and everything, and this is where the meetings happen now. And I think that if you want someone to come in, like a foreigner, or Goodwill, or an NGO, they need practical projects. And this project, to be honest with you, it only cost me about $70 a month, maybe about $100 a month. And it runs. The chairman runs it. He does everything he needs to do in that office, and it's a center point for everyone. And it's not distracted with any equipment, but training material. And we did make training videos for, those are other things you can have people get involved with. This is me in Indonesia with the Indonesian chairman, Gatot Sugiarto there. Going here and learning how they build these better. You can bring them back and teach the miners here what the other miners are doing. Well, let me zoom out a bit here. But this is when we were optimistic about getting some results out of Planet Gold. And we really didn't get very far with them because it got caught up in politics. But still, they're the reason that I started my project, because I thought if I build something good, then these guys can take over. Well, I'm still here because they never took over. But so we talk about all kinds of things now. Like site layout. Like if you're going to build something like this, don't build it next to your house, because the way the cyanide gas leaks into the you know, it vaporizes, and if it smells like nuts, it'll make you go nuts. You know, we kind of come up with these taglines and do these bit of educational campaigns. And this is my Askari. These are the Maasai. You guys are probably familiar with these guys. Are pretty popular over here in Tanzania, and this is the area we're in. And so those guys were actually working for us there. We actually got licensed. We had we kind of set the example by getting a mineral dealers and processing license, so we were legal. And so walking through that whole process together with everyone was very educational and showed it was possible. And so walking through this process with an existing mining group is very beneficial. These are some of the logos from the groups. There's this one, I guess that one's there, Farmers of Gold. But there's a few other things I wanted to touch on. Practical projects and angle of approach. So to get an idea of what a practical project looks like, it means it's actually happening on the ground. It's something that's the miners are engaging in. And these are some of the things we've acquired and then desired, but in 2022, we pretty much acquired, or by 2022, we acquired everything. And we just started laying out what we want and who we want to team with. And it started to grow because I was actually there, living there, and that's the nature of it. If you're not on the ground, you're not going to be effective. And that's why I say you need to implement, like the Red Cross is good at doing this. They implement local people to do work and engage, and think of those angles of approach. Like I have here, this angles of approach. If we think about that, like I said, we have doctors. Most doctors don't understand the symptoms of mercury-related ailments. So we made a gold miner's wellness checklist, and it says, okay, here's the symptoms: cyanide poisoning, mercury poisoning, silica dust, and compared to tuberculosis. And then you look at the symptoms here, and we designed this with a doctor in Logorian, and then we showed the long-term and short-term effects. And you guys can get a copy of this. And I'm going to send you the one. And we even put these guys' logo on it, but they never got involved, which is interesting. But so I'll give you the one without their logo until they change their mind. But we started putting these up in doctors' offices, and that was really amazing. Because now you're saying, okay, I'm a gold miner, and if you teach a doctor, you know, about the special symptoms here, they're diagnosing everyone with malaria. So we said, no, this is specific to what they're doing. So ask them questions, you know, more questions about what they do for a living, what's their job position, and then the doctor will say, I'm a specialist in mining-related ailments. So where are the miners going to go? Very practical. So in the schools, you can do looks like I'm running low on time, but in the schools, you can do a training for schools in a curriculum for the schools in an area that says, hey, kids, this is what a leaching site looks like. This is why it's dangerous. You know what? Don't play in old mining shafts. You know, don't play on tailings, dirt of things because they have mercury in them. You know, you can do a quick course and explain to them exactly why it's dangerous. And then the kids go home and they do what? They tell their parents, hey, that's dangerous. And then their parents are like, what are you talking about? But you keep that dialogue going from a lot of angles. So if we look here, well, that's a bill here. I wanted to show you the chat bot here. Let's see if we go to, and this is the repository of artisanal mining advocates, which is the same thing as the GCMF. But we have a couple of things here I'll show you, and then I'll wind it up real quick. We've done GDA tests on GDA, which they say is safe for leaching, but it's actually not. It's actually got about 20% cyanide in it. And this is a report we did in that area. We also have the top 10 most dangerous activities in artisanal mining and why they're dangerous. So practically approaching it. But if you look here, engaging the ASM communities, if you come to this page, you'll say, what do we, here's the mercury-free ASM GS techniques. Every single one of them that's known to mankind right here. So they like to act like the mystery is, okay, we're going to come with new technology. Well, if you have time, you can look right through here and you can start to see which ones, like electro separation. Is this practical for artisanal mining? No. But some of these borax methods are. So it's about cost, you know, what the value is compared to mercury. So we've already identified all of the mercury-free options to date, physically possible. So some of the other things in the repository is our mandate, the Kenya National Action Plan, our wellness checklist. And then we also have training manuals on silica dust. We don't just approach mercury, we look at all of the problems in mining. We use older miners to teach younger miners about their health issues, what's happened to them over the years. Better sluice box technologies. We have a mercury manuals, field visit document. So this right here is very interesting. This is the checklist for artisanal small-scale gold miners checklist. So what you would want to bring if you're really thorough about looking at all the problems in an area. You want a sound meter for the noise, mercury meters, digital pH meters, all of this kind of thing. So it looks like I'm going a little long, so I'm just gonna leave you guys with the connection to all this stuff, but you can see we've been quite busy. And you're certainly welcome to join us in what we're doing. But there is something else right here I'll show you. This is Dr. Mining Manhattan. This is my favorite project at the moment. This is an AI. And here, it's working on our websites right now. It's not working on the here, but I can just say here, let me allow this. Okay. Oh, sorry. Hello, how are you? Could you tell me, can you say hello to the Women in Mining group in Nigeria? And also tell us a little bit why mercury is dangerous. And then I just hit send, and this thing talks in 105 languages, and it's using GPT, if you know what ChatGPT is. And after a few minutes, or after a minute, it should give us an answer to any problem we have. So he's also giving us an audio. So if I zoom in, you can see it's saying hi to us. Keep digging and shining. It's bad news. Mercury is toxic, messes with your nervous system, kidneys, and lungs, especially young children. But if I have a problem like my wife is mad because I didn't come home, right? I'm not married, by the way. I used to be. It's because I didn't come home. But what can I do? Now, it should even give me domestic advice, everything else like this. But the cool thing is we're bringing AI to the ground. So yeah, here's the deal. Apologize, sincerely explain to the situation. So the point that makes AI really interesting and special to our miners is most of us use WhatsApp. And we need to think about the community that we're engaged in as a whole economy, and also the tools that we have in our hands like WhatsApp. And so right now I'm upgrading the WhatsApp, so I don't have the number for you, but you can go to the website and try this out. Ask it any question you want specific to your problem or whatever you want to just mess around with it, and it will give you a nice response. So this is bringing an expert right to WhatsApp for everyone to use. No app downloads or anything, where they can go to the website really easily and access a serious question they may have about any type of thing that they have. And as you can see, I've got a lot more, but I can see it's already 6:50. And hopefully this has been somewhat enjoyable and interesting to see what we've been up to over here in Kenya. And we feel like we're brothers in the East here, and we really look up to Nigeria and the path you're setting forward in a lot of ways. And if you have expertise in mining things that we can benefit from, we want to learn from. We believe in miners mentoring miners, and really looking forward to seeing all the progress that you've done in Nigeria over the years. And I'm just grateful that you allowed me to be here. So
much, Matthew. We are very, very grateful, and I'm sure there'll be questions in the chat box. For time, I would rather want us to move to the next speaker. So please stay around so that if questions come up, and people, because you've really thrown up quite a number of practical inclusions on the tools needed, for community engagement. We've seen your practical demonstration of it, and people might want to ask questions. And at the end of the day, we'll put out your details, you understand, because that's the essence of networking. The world has become a small community where we all network to learn from one another. Today, we have another beautiful speaker who I called a guru. You understand? She looks quiet, but when she roars, you understand, on national issues, you understand, you panic. So I'm so excited to have one of the foremost activists in the sector. Please, can you I'm sorry. So today we have quite enough diverse people in the system. So some don't even know how to manipulate, and we're just teaching. We have some sessions now where we are teaching people on how to engage, using digital IT. So it's a bit challenging, muting and unmuting. So please bear with us. But I don't know where I stopped, so I will start all over again. I said we are excited having one of us, a most respected and foremost activist in the land. You understand? That's Engineer Faith Nwadishi, you understand, who has been a consistent voice in the extractive sector and generally on national issues. That's one woman who abhors injustice in all forms of it. And today I make bold that I'll be inviting her to talk on weighing incentives for the mining industry, a careful analysis between taxation of ASM and SSM miners and tax incentives to incoming investors. The topic might look until you listen to her, because I think we have some common area, some common grounds and thought process. I get worried when I see incentives all over the place, you understand, because African nations, developing countries are eager to bring in investors. And then you see that on the other corner of it, we lash so much hardship, you understand, on the indigenous or local miners or indigenous miners, call them any name. So I'm thinking of us debating it, and this is going to be interactive. So make your comments in the chat box to see what is the cost-benefit analysis, you understand? Let's look at it. Look at what is happening in the West. You look at what is happening. So is it an adage of the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer, or we get from the rich, you understand, to settle the poor? So whichever way it is, so Faith is never shy. She's known not to shy away from speaking the truth. And that is why I brought in no other person. We have people with PhD in taxation and everything, but we want somebody who will speak the truth to us. And then we can now take it from there and know what to do. So we are excited to have Madam Faith, as is usually called. We are excited to have you here, ma. Thank you for gracing this invitation. So you can have the Dollarine, please read her CV, her brief CV, because I know her CV must be up to 30 pages. Just read her brief CV before we call her to come and present her paper. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
And please mute everybody again. I'm muting myself as a...
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Madam Nwadishi is an accomplished professional, adept in peace and conflict studies, civil engineering, and gender governance. She demonstrates proficient leadership in NGO management, transparency advocacy, and gender mainstreaming. She also holds an MSc in peace and conflict studies. She also boasts of various professional certifications in negotiation, feminism, anti-corruption, and governance. Her career highlights includes roles in transparency advocacy, consulting for the World Bank, and as well as leadership positions across various organizations. Her noteworthy achievements encompass founding Women in Extractives, serving on national steering committees, and representing civil society on international boards. She possesses strong competencies in project management, conflict resolution, advocacy, and stakeholder engagement. And network memberships encompass esteemed organizations such as Women in Extractives, Open Government Partnership, and Publish What You Pay. She also exhibits exemplary communication, interpersonal and organizational skills, essential for driving successful project outcomes in dynamic, high-pressure environments. Madam Faith Nwadishi, thank you so much for the opportunity to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Please unmute Madam Faith if she's not yet unmuted. Yeah. Madam Faith, is she? I think I saw her earlier. I hope she's around.
She's actually with us.
Can you hear
Check
me
if
now?
you-
Good evening, ma.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah.
Thank you, ma. Could I be allowed to share my screen?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, ma. Thank you for all of the kind words that you said about me, and thank you, Matt, for the earlier presentation. Network has been so challenging for me since yesterday. I don't know what's happening. I hope that I will have the network be kind to me on this presentation as we do that. So the presentation I have here today is, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Are you seeing that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to look at weighing the incentives for mining industry from a very practical point of view, from experience and speaking with artisanal miners, and also having had the opportunity of sitting on the international board of the EITI with large mining corporations like Rio Tinto, who were on the board at the same time I was on the board. And this issue of taxation and tax incentives, especially taxation of ASM and tax incentive, have been on the discussion table for a very long time, because governments are eager to get large corporations to come into their countries. They dish out a lot of tax incentives to corporations, and feeling that that will be the incentive that they need to come in. And because they're so eager to get large corporations to come into their countries to begin to exploit their minerals and perhaps begin to get revenue from that, they forget to go look at some other negative indicators of that. And because they want large corporations to come in, they begin to, overtax the ASM sector, and not really looking at putting technical support and other things in place. Unlike in other climes where there is a deliberate attempt, to support ASMs side by side, its tax incentives that they give to that. So the outline for our presentation today is this. We have the introduction, taxation, the overview, the global case studies, Nigerian mining, and then some recommendations, and perhaps we can look at, we can take some questions. So the objective for us is to explore the balance between taxation and artisanal and small-scale mining, and providing tax incentive to attract large-scale investors. So the fundamental question that maybe we can answer after this presentation is, how can government effectively incentivize mining investments while ensuring fair taxation? Because you have people, community people, engaging in artisanal mining, and you bring all of the taxes. In other words, if you place the taxes side by side with the kind incentives that large corporations get, you find that there's a lot of injustice on the level of taxes that we impose on artisanal miners. So these are pictures that we got from the media organizations, one of them from Premium Times, the other one from Guardian, and the other one from I think that's a newspaper. So what's the definition of artisanal and small-scale mining? It's a blanket term. Usually people use that. I got that from Wikipedia, and it's generally is defined as, a subsistence kind of mining that involves a miner who may or may not be officially employed by a mining company, but works independently using their own resources. Usually the implements, you can see them, you see the hoes, you see the shovels, you see the pans, you don't see any machinery, you don't see any heavy duty equipment there, and these are the equipment implements that the artisanal miners use to carry their trade. So unlike large-scale mining, where you have all of the equipment, it's large-scale, they're doing all of the work that is done. The artisanal mining sector is usually independent, and so you have issues around ensuring that the environment, issues around the environment, issues around ensuring that the mining is done in a way that is friendly even to the individuals themselves. So the artisanal mining is characterized by labor intensity, often informal, and can really be environmentally damaging if not regulated. But when you talk about the environmental damage that mining does, comparing artisanal mining to large-scale mining, you understand that large-scale miners actually cause more problem or impact. They impact negatively on the environment. So for small-scale mining lease, you know, within the Nigerian law, it's defined as the small-scale mining lease is a right to exclusively carry out small-scale mining operations, low-level technology or methods not requiring substantial expenditure. So usually the small-scale mining, compared to large-scale mining, the investment is not as much as it is, and within the laws in Nigeria, it is usually a 5-year lease period, which is applicable to all artisanal leases, renewable for further periods of 5 years each. Then the taxation for ASMs. Well, for every tax that you have in the country, there could be positives and there could be negatives. So one of the positives, generally, when you read literature and when you talk to people about what is it, is there any positivity that comes out from taxing artisanal miners? So the question is there any possibility that comes out from taxing citizens of a country, just looking at it generally, speaking from a lay person point of view on issues of taxation and practicality? One of it that it's a source of revenue for government, and it helps to formalize the sector and improve regulation. So if you want to formalize the sector, one of the ways to capture the people who are working within that sector is to put in these taxes, but we have cases of double taxation. We have cases of the issue of corruption within the rate at which these taxes are collected. You have a situation whereby people are supposed to pay taxes because you don't have it automated. You have people who go back and set up tax forces and unnecessarily go to collecting these taxes. And one of the negative things that has come out from generally looking at all climes in the implementation of taxation of ASM is that it pushes the operation further into formality. It is difficult to enforce and can stifle growth of small operators. So what it does is that at the end of the day, what you now have a kind of a cabal who just make themselves the only people within that sector, placing unnecessary taxes or fines on the people. The case of Ghana, for instance, in trying to formalize the ASM and impose taxes, there's still challenges and informality that is going on. So it is a conversation, a continuous conversation globally to look at the formalization of ASMs and how we can better work with ASMs in the countries. Compared to the large mining companies that you have. So what's the mining company? What's the difference between the large scale mining companies and the small? Those large scale mining companies are those ones who come to your country. They come with all the expertise. They come with the equipment, they come with the money, and they're coming, and those are the ones that the governments are looking at. And because they are looking at that, they are quick to rush to give incentives to them. So some incentives include tax holidays, reduced royalties, and other financial incentives to attract large-scale mining investments. In this conversation, I'm going to list out a few of the incentives that we have listed in our laws for large-scale mining companies. Just like you have the pros and the cons for the taxation of artisanal mining companies, you also have the pros and the cons of these incentives that go to very large scale companies. The number one of it is that it attracts significant capital, technology, and expertise. So that's on the surface of it. But again, the negative aspect is that by the time large-scale mining companies are operating in the countries, there's the level or degree of environmental degradation. It cannot be compared to what you have. Issues with communities, you know, conflicts, and all that. Even though artisanal mining also can lead to some conflict, but it's the level of the conflict is not comparable to the level of conflict that you have with large-scale mining companies, because concessions could be given of community area lands, but because of the Land Use Act we have in Nigeria, sometimes community members are not properly informed or are not aware of this. So you have potential revenue loss if you don't put these incentives out, like developing countries like Nigeria want to put out. They feel that the miners will not come, they will withdraw their investment, and so they put all of this on the floor for miners to attract miners to come. And the most important thing is that it might undermine the local economy. So you have these incentives that you give to large-scale mining companies would undermine local economies. Now we have talked about the people who don't operate at that scale are not able to get the kind of incentives, and you're not giving the same kind of incentives at the scale to the artisanal miners or the small-scale miners who are operating. So, for instance, you are a small-scale miner and the environment, and you are able to get some minerals, and then if you sell it within the tax, which is 7.5% now, is demanded of you. Meanwhile, you have small equipment that you are using, your shovels, your hoes, you go there and buy. The large scale companies are bringing their big country, and they are tax-free. They don't pay duties for import of those things. So what now happens is, because they don't have to pay duties for import, economies within that area, within that country is neglected, and you undermine the local economy because you're not paying attention to the fact that you can actually give this tax incentives in such a way that it can patronize the local economy without killing the local economy within your country. So some of these
I hope we haven't lost her. Sister Faith, where are you? Network. Hello, Sister Faith.
Yeah, but recently, can you hear me?
No, your line, we lost you for about 1 minute.
My.
No,
can
just
you hear me
for
now?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Yeah, so because of the issue of network I've been having, I tried to connect with my phone. So once a call comes in, it cuts me off. That's the best I could do to get network. It's been so challenging since yesterday. So Chile has been the top destination, but though it has become shaky with the recent rise, recently now countries are going back to sit down to review some of these incentives and tax holidays they have given, tax credits they have given to companies, because they have gone back to review that they have slightly, you know, turned it up. That's what we're having with the global north. But for our developing countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, rather than following that, we're looking at, oh, okay, can we reduce this? So most of the negotiations that are given in the global north are different from the tax incentives that we give in the countries, especially in sub-Saharan countries, can come to be here. Just I think it was just this week, Australia announced a 7 billion tax credit for critical tax project for critical mineral projects that we give by the opposition. The opposition is saying you are giving billions to billionaires while the people in the country are suffering. You are not making provisions for social investment. You're not making provisions, yet you are continuing to make $7 billion Australian dollars available to those people who are working within the sector. And according to the opposition leader in Australia, he calls it government giving billions back to billionaires. And this kind of conversations are the kind of conversations we usually don't have within our sphere, because at the end of the day, people are struggling trying to get the licenses and all of that. And so because this also is not, the information is not pushed out in a way that people really understand it. Opposition also do not really understand. So it doesn't become an issue of debate. And so you see these incentives being rolled out, and nobody is looking at that. So, for instance, in Ghana, tax reforms targeting both ASM and large-scale mining with mixed results, because within the Ghanaian mining sector, they have large-scale mining. They have been in mining much more than Nigeria. You have more large-scale corporations in Ghana than you have in Nigeria. We have more ASM within our mining sector, and so some of these reforms from countries have been looked at into where do we find the balance between giving incentives to foreigners and large-scale companies who are coming into our country and our indigenous people, because the artisanal and small-scale mining sector is usually populated by indigenous people. And you see these people who are working within that sector, because they are citizens of a country, when you do a tax reform, or you have taxes that applies to citizens, it applies to them as citizens, and it also applies to them again as miners. And some way there's a cross-cutting where that you find that artisanal miners and even individuals can be can suffer from double taxation. So looking at the Nigerian area, yes, we have made efforts to formalize the ASM, but these challenges, just like the same kind of challenges that were seen in Ghana, still persist. There are various incentives offered to attract large-scale mining, yet faced with issues of implementation and regulatory uncertainty. But at the same time, the way we tax ASM and the tax regimes that we have within the country is something that we need to look at. So in Nigeria, the Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining Department, that within the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, organizes and supports and assists small-scale mining operations and improves sustainable livelihood in ASM communities. These are some of the reforms and some of the efforts that the federal government has made over the years to be able to look at and support the artisanal and small-scale miners within the country. But the issue of tax versus the incentives that is giving companies that are coming. For instance, in Nigeria, you have the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council giving a tax holiday to companies operating for like 3 years. You don't pay taxes. At times, also personnel taxes are waived for about 5 years, but you don't have the same for artists. This is a list of some of the taxes we have within the sector. The personal income tax, for instance, capital gains tax, value added, then you have corporate income tax and education tax. Education tax, you know, that this law has recently 3% profit for every company. Every company that is registered in Nigeria is to pay 3% to support education tax. And this is a tax, the money that TET fund, we know TET fund, this is the money that they use to run TED fund and support our tertiary education systems in the country. So this is the tax incentives have put incentives that we have within the Nigerian Minerals Act of 2007 that was passed by the National Assembly. These are some of the ones. One is that you have accelerated capital allowance on mining. So issue of exemption from customs and import duties in respect of plant machinery for mining. So let's take an artisanal miner who wants to import hoes and shovels. You're importing hoes and shovels. You don't get that kind of tax exemption, although you don't get that kind of incentive because it is not classified as machinery, equipment, and accessories. Well, you can decide to classify the hoes and the shovels as accessories that you use in mining. Import such implements into the country does not enjoy that. So, and then you have the issue around a tax holiday for an initial period of 3 years from commencement of operations and renewable for additional 2 years. So this, there was a time, perhaps some of us can remember, status for companies, new companies who are going to work, and you find out that some companies, like even hotels, were listed as companies that qualified for this issue of pioneer status. So you have artisanal miners because it is mostly not a formal sector. You have people who go into the field, and those taxes that they that are operated within a country, they're made to pay those taxes. And once they register, they begin, you know what the issues are. So when you compare what you have in some climes and what we have, especially in developing countries, you find that there are a little bit of similarities, especially with developing countries. You know, the kind of taxes, incentives that we put on the table. That's why there's a common challenge, including balancing revenue generation with attracting investment and managing environmental impacts. Activities of artisanal miners, activities of large-scale miners, it's a challenge all over the world. We just had the presentation from the first presenter on engaging community of successes in formalizing ASM. There are differences in the scale of incentives and distinct regulatory environments. For instance, where I was privileged, when I was on the board of the AITI, we had a meeting with the large corporations, and we had that meeting because the issue of tax incentives from developing, we asked the large corporations to do a lecture and let us know what is it that attracts them to a company. Out of the 10 priorities, each tax holidays, we are not part of them. We're not part of those 10. For instance, personal income tax, they're not part of those, because you have expatriates coming into the country and they are earning a living there. So you need, because of that, some countries say for a period of 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, you don't take any form of tax. Meanwhile, artisanal miners who are engaged people, even if they have a small formalized system, by the time they have an office, taxes from them. So the recommendations will be one, quickly, so that we can quickly, one, to calibrate tax incentives to attract investors while ensuring fair taxation of ASM. We're not saying countries should not put in place plans to attract investors from other climes, but it should not be done detrimentally to the ASM, because you're looking at getting taxes, you're looking at taxing the ASM, you're not looking at the environment, ensuring they have the right capacity, ensuring that they have access to credit, ensuring that they have some of the technical capacities that they need to do that, rather rushing for taxation. So, for instance, when you have said a large corporation, because you want them to come into the country, will have a tax holiday. Anyway, we are happy that some of these tax holidays have reduced to about 5 years. Those days used to be like 20 years, 30 years. But now you can see the 5 years tax holidays. But how effectively are we implementing, or are we following up on those tax holidays and those incentives that we give, so that there is proper reporting and monitoring of that? And then we need to strengthen our legal and regulatory frameworks. The Minerals Act in Nigeria 2007 has been long on the shelf. It is time for us to look at it and begin to do a reform. I know that the ministry has started that, but we need to fast track that so that we can capture the new requirements, especially for support to ASM, and have a fair taxation regime for AXM, and then looking at the kind of tax incentives, perhaps we should begin to do away with tax holidays within the tax system or tax regime, fiscal regimes of our mining laws and our countries, and then do a proper support to help and support this for governments, and then of course for investors who are coming, engage with local communities to reduce conflict. The 2007 Act talks about the community development agreements, follow through the process and all that, and invest in sustainable practices to mitigate environmental impacts. In doing that, also you help to reduce that, and that is also applicable to ASMs in looking at curtailing the environmental impacts in that. And there should be a proper collaboration. For instance, the minerals mines, solid minerals development, and the relationship between the Ministry of Environment. You know, that has been an issue. You have the environmental impact assessment department in the mines ministry, and you also have an environmental impact assessment department in the Ministry of Environment. At the end of the day, it is about the country, it's about the people who live within those areas. Is it possible to have a collaboration, building a strong synergy between these two major ministries to ensure that we have the benefit of that, and then also bringing it back to the issue of taxation and protection of the environment, ensuring citizens benefit from their natural resources. We don't have to overtax the indigenous or the artisanal miners or small-scale miners who are trying to make ends meet, while we are turning the other eye or turning the deaf ear to what is happening with the large-scale miners. We cannot, and then finally, I'll just say that we cannot run away from the impact that we're having right now with the Chinese companies that are working in our communities, the conflicts they are causing, the environmental degradation. At a time, this was an issue also in Ghana. And I remember I went to Ghana on a study for this type of, we visited some large-scale miners, gold miners, and went to some sites in Ghana. And the issue of artisanal miners, especially the invasion of the Chinese in the mining sector, is something we should actually take very seriously. And in conclusion, I would say that if effective policy making requires balancing incentives for large-scale investments with fair taxation of ASM, there should be ongoing adjustments and improvements in regulatory frameworks, which is key to sustainable mining and growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Faith. And that was a wonderful presentation, balanced. We are very grateful to you. And I agree with you on quite a number of points you raised. Permit me, number one, to first of all congratulate the current minister, that's Dr. Dele Alake, for the 7-point agenda launched about 2 days or 3 days ago. And when you look at that agenda, I think some of these things, and then Mr. President too, I read online, I'm not a Federal Executive Council member, but I knew that some of the tax burden, you understand, facing the lower cadre of the society sort of are being ameliorated. But the main goal behind this topic is to actually ask ourselves that, do we still need what you call tax holidays? And if we need the tax holidays, should it be modified? In the sense that the world changes. The mining sector, the mining ecosystem is one of the most dynamic sectors that keeps on changing. Today, I see Africa as the bride, and there's something they call seasonal development. This is the season, this is the time for Africa. This is the time for developing country. They call it critical minerals in the West, that is the global North, but we call it strategic minerals, strategic development. If we use our senses, whatever they are looking for will be for strategic development, because they have almost gotten to their peak in terms of the raw mineral resources. We have those raw mineral resources, which they will need to feed their industries, to be able to make the production of whatever they want to produce. And the world has gone digital. They need the lithium, they need the cobalt, they need the nickel, they need the manganese, they need the copper, which we have. But when we keep on giving tax holidays, when do we close the poverty gap? Because you give them tax breaks, you give them holidays, you allow them to bring in their equipment, you understand? And at times, even some of the construction companies now they play smart. What do? They register as mining companies so that when they are coming, they bring in their equipment. And I want you to start noting things, Nigeria. When you get to a particular outrock in the course of construction, in civilized countries, you cannot break those rocks. You cannot, without the involvement of the Federal Ministry of Solid Mines and Solid Minerals. Why? Because you don't even know the potentiality in that particular rock, number one. Number two, when you break that rocks, you are getting aggregates, which you will now use for your road construction. What arrangement has been made in terms of gains, you understand, to governments? You understand? So you find out that it's win-win-win for those large companies, in quotes. And meanwhile, our miners association, I feel for them. I feel for Patrick. I don't know, maybe he's online when I read his post. I feel for quite a number of them like that. You understand? So there's the need to balance this and make sure that the ASM people are motivated to. You find out that the ASM people equally dodge. They do a lot of things under the carpet. Yes, everything should be transparent, because we will have to go through a proper formalization process. And you find out that Matt mentioned it. That was why I said 2 key strategic topics are matched together. The government must provide the needed incentives. You cannot rule under a draconian system and be successful. People will always look for how to cut corners. But when people learn to trust their government, they will willingly submit themselves to that government. And a typical example of it is, you find out that NGOs make significant impacts in whatever government is doing. So NGOs must be seen as partners. CSOs must be seen as partners. Indigenous community must be seen as partners. Shortly before we started this lecture, we normally play a video. And if you look at what is happening in Osun State, and you watch and you see the lamentation of the king, because the king is knowledgeable. So he could not be bribed. Usually, some of these, because I don't want to start saying Chinese, because you have some Chinese companies that are equally good. You understand? Well, some of these illegal Chinese people take money, bribe these uneducated Obas who don't even know the significance or what they are sitting on, and they devastate the environment and they go away. So I believe that we will do a lot in this series, you understand, to look at sustainability and tax, look at sustainability and benefits, the livelihood opportunities, because poverty, when you go to mining communities, real mining communities, and enter it, you are alarmed at what is coming out from mining communities. Currently, we are working in Nasarawa State, so I can tell you about that. You see what is coming out in terms of mineral resources. You see the potentiality, and yet you see abject poverty around. I don't think that is good for any community, and that's the source of conflict. Whatever we are witnessing today, call it Boko Haram, call it whatever, something triggers and people becomes mad. people think, oh, why are you cheating us? You understand? But if everybody gets what they deserve or what should be from government, you'll find out that there's a measure of peace. At least the peace index grows to about 80% or 90%. But when people are denied or deprived, you understand, you get conflicts. And then the peace index is about 10% or 15%. Then governments waste more money trying to resolve the issue. So I pray that henceforth, you understand, all of us are soldiers, all of us here. And we purposely brought in Matthew, you understand, to come and participate in this conversation for one thing. At times you don't have, some of us found ourselves in the mining industry, but we ourselves can be foot soldiers. We ourselves can be contributors to development, to educate. We ourselves can help in building the capacity in our immediate environment, not until you have a degree in geology, not until you have a degree in geochemistry or mining engineer or whatever, no. Some of these things are applications. You understand? What have you learned in some other subjects? What can you pick online? And what do you know is possible from what you have heard from the ministry? So I employ and enjoy all of us to join hands to build better communities, irrespective of which country we came from. Because without a good community, we are all doomed. Without a good community, you understand, we just be trying to mitigate crisis. You understand? And the most challenging crisis, difficult to mitigate right now, is the sustainability thing. Where climate change is staring at us in the face, and nature, unfortunately, does not respect anybody. We saw what happened in Dubai. You understand? Yes, people say it's man-made. Yes, it's man-made. But what are places where it is not man-made? You understand? All you have to do is go to YouTube and watch weather disasters. Then you'll be amazed when Mother Nature decides to roar. But why are they roaring? Because you tormented them by your bad practices, by your unsustainable practices. So today we want to take about 2 questions. If you have your hands raised up, if you want to take, okay, I can see Dr. Salau's hands up. So Dr. Salau, you have the floor for 2 minutes. You know, I don't know, maybe Patrick is here. It would have been good to share an experience as a miner. Yeah. Okay, Patrick, let's hear Patrick first, then we come to Dr. Salau. So Patrick, please, can you unmute Patrick? Dolarine, please, can you unmute Patrick? The Secretariat, please unmute Patrick.
Yes, I'm muted.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This is a very awesome deep dive. Matt has done absolutely glorious, even though my network was fluctuating, but all the same. Our experiences are really, really becoming something else. The idea of natural resources will be to the best interest of a nation, primarily. And once we deviate from that, I don't even know exactly what we're doing. The essence of thinking that foreign investors are going to come and develop our country will continue to be a pipe dream. It won't happen. They don't have vested interest. Their interest is shallow. It's only about profit taking. So we have to be more deliberate in ensuring that our local players are not disenfranchised. What we are seeing now, most especially the actors of state governments, that the people that are supposed to come down and control these things appears to passively supporting what the state governments are doing. That is contrary to Mineral Mining Act. I don't know how a state governor can wake up and allege there's a insecurity that is organized or linked to mining without any proof. He will make a pronouncement, and that pronouncement will stand. Meanwhile, it's not the one that issued the license that is giving the legitimate miners to work. So these are things we need to be, we need to clean it up. Our ministry, without holding anything back, must be alive to their responsibility, right? That's one. 2, we have to look at the issue of markets. Now, we've been screaming of Berite for end. Yesterday, the president launched gas initiative. 3 companies were coming out on gas. But how are you going to do this gas? How are you going to do the oil and gas if we don't have the supporting services that is locally sourced? Because when you talk about local source, you are talking about imminent employment and development of our rural environments. So we simply need to do more studies before we come out and approve most of these things that will just brazenly allowed to continue to happen in our country. The essence of people receiving their salary in the ministry would be for them to do jobs that will promote the interests of Nigerians, not to the contrary. When you talk, it looks as if you are complaining or if you are speaking against them. No, but we are thinking that as a country, we have a primary duty to ensure that there's good order and peaceful coexistence of Nigerians. Nigerians shouldn't be lamenting in their own country that the system is exposing them to danger. I don't think it's equitable. So definitely, I think we're on the right track. Information is becoming very unbounded. And
Thank
on
you
tax,
so much.
if I can conclude on taxation, right? We see that there are roadblocks and they are all collecting money. So there are so many other hidden taxes that we don't even know how to put it out. So please, I think transparency is key. Let's be transparent. I, for one, want transparency. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we are live on, we are live. So as we are presenting, we are live. I just want us to be mindful of that. Please, Sir Dr. Salau, just hold on a minute. You're a BOT member. Let us invite Professor Jonathan Aremu. Professor Jonathan Aremu, I will want your perspective as one of the economic guru in Nigeria, to shed light on these issues. Thank you. Resource governance, taxation, and community engagement versus poverty, amelioration of poverty. Thank you.
Opportunity.
We can't hear you, sir. It's like you are still muted. Yeah.
Yes, I think I'm struggling to off it. I think I'm okay now.
Yes, you're okay now, sir.
Okay. I say thank you. I'm joining the program rather late. But what I can say is that the government is trying to look into the area of fiscal harmonization so that that will no longer be a constraint, particularly in all the economic activities in the country. Over time, there has been a lot of multiplicity of taxation, each of them crossing one jurisdiction or one level of governance to another one. And then all those multiple taxation, they actually erode the possible income of investors. So that has been like that over time. And but the government is trying to do everything possible to ensure that that kind of excessive tax is actually removed from the system. How far they can do that, let us continue to work, but let us try and cooperate with what is happening. And then secondly, is the fact that everybody is aware that the economic system with respect to monetary policy is not doing well. And it's expected, coming from the research department of Central Bank, I can seriously say that yes, Central Bank is trying what they are doing. But the major constraint is that the money outside the bank is far more than what can be targeted by effective monetary policy. So how to be able to actually get money out from people's bedroom and where they put it, or in the foreign reserves of individual domestic dollars they are buying, how to be able to get it into the system and then put it in the bank so that the monetary policy can capture it. That is another thing. So that is what I can say. On the fiscal side, apart from the tax, I've mentioned tax. That is talking with other activities of Ministry of Finance. I think as a coordinating minister, they are trying to, as much as possible, make sure that the coordination in terms of seeing to the effectiveness of all the other ministries, particularly with respect to ensuring that they obey the rule of the game in line with their mandate is put in place. And that is the essence of coordination, particularly in places like where they have to actually joint collect or joint implement a particular thing with respect to money and the economy. Particularly in the area in which there was a problem some time ago, in which Central Bank of Nigeria committed as much as 23 trillion on the national economy without Ministry of Finance knowing. And that kind of a thing shouldn't happen. It must not happen. It's totally not acceptable. The issue of just a short-term credit to government in terms of what the governor of Central Bank did that particular time is something that you do and then must actually end at the end of the year.
Oh.
I can say for now because I joined you late, madam. But I think that a lot is going on, and I hope they will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And that's an encouragement because the harmonization is very, very important. I'll just give you a quick notice that in Edo State, one of our women who owns a pit, I went to that pit, a massive pit, you understand, was made to pay, because when you talk about harmonization, there's a need to equally look at the local unions. Unionization in Nigeria, you understand, there's a need for intervention. The local union demanded 12 million naira from this woman. Apart from the other materials you will need to buy, like beer, gin, exotic drinks, goats, and everything, to be able to continue to mine. She had no choice to negotiate with intervention to about 8 million naira before she was allowed to. She will still have to pay the tax to state government and yet pay again revenue royalty to federal government because the license is from federal government. So those are the things that kill investments, that don't allow businesses to grow. There's a need, you understand, for harmonization. And I purposely called you because I know you are a strong member of the team, you understand, of the national team. So we will still call on you again to continue to brief us so that we are well informed. And then we bring the president of Women in Taxation, Pastor Morgan has promised us, you understand, so that we understand really the underlying thing, because women, most times we ignore that aspect. But you find out that the multiple taxation has even gone into banks. Now to even, we said we want a cashless economy, but now you have discouraged us, you understand, from using the cashless system, because why? When I pay you, you are charging me. When you pay, so all these things have to be worked out, and we have to see the positive impact of whatever Nigerians are using their money for. Anyway, we look up to the president as a man who says something and he does it, that there will be an improvement in the landscape. Let me call on Dr. Salau before I call Pastor Moge. Yeah. Dr. Salau, are you there? Can you unmute?
Yes,
Dr.
I am.
Salau? Yeah, thank you, Mama, our BOT member.
Yeah. I appreciate you. In fact, this is very interesting topics. Those two topics that you brought together today is an eye-opener to the successes of our artisanal and small-scale miners. What is the government doing after formalization? What else? The equipment in form of incentives is not there. Nothing is there. But when they're going to collect tax, they start from onset. No holidays, just as my presenter, my sister, has just done. Where do we go from here? Why are we so hostile to the local people? Why? You are trying to bring them in? Yes, we are bringing them in. Thereafter, what next? Please, with this presentation, let's talk of something. Collaboration, synergy, such that we can also benefit from those incentives. Let it be part of the amendment to the law. Let's give the small-scale miners some incentives. Not that the one that will be said are not implemented, the one that we can see physically that it could be implemented, like renting out equipment for them to make more production available. That can help us too. Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Salau, the ever blunt retired civil servant who cares about nothing. You are welcome. The truth of it is that there's no way indigenous miners, whether call it small-scale miners, call it anything in Nigeria, can advance without collaboration. Because I'm sure Dr. Moge will share her experience going to DRC. Once we even call small-scale mining in Nigeria, share the American experience with you, is what you call no miners. I'm sure some of us, if you go on YouTube, you just look at some channels, the gold guy, the array of equipments he has, you understand? And yet he doesn't classify himself as artisanal. Because why? The equipment is nothing compared to what they should have. So that tells us that we must learn to collaborate. You understand? It goes beyond title, and government must support. In America, I remember when the economy was sinking, when it was going flat, the system, you understand, that's the leadership of the system under Obama, fired back with what you call buying back those investments, because they didn't want it to change hands. They noticed that the Chinese were buying, and they quickly interjected by giving loan, you understand, to companies. So it is high time we come to the aids of our local miners. We could have a mining bank. We could collateralize them with various other things, even with the mineral resources, as long as we guarantee that the resources are there, so that even when they fail, we can always get the resources, you understand, to continue to mine. But to continue to deny and promote investors, just like Mr. Patrick said, who eventually is capital flight, a FIFO, fly in, fly out. They come in, they do their business, come back with their toothpaste, their toothbrush, do everything, their t-shirts and jeans, and then they go off. All they leave behind in your trays is even maybe molest your girls, you understand, have unwanted children, babies that are not recorded, that have no identity, and they go away. So I believe, and I'm happy that that we are privileged on this platform, that the secretary of this association, and who equally runs Ziva community, you understand, is here. And that's a very articulate young woman too. And Faith, who we harvest all these things. All of us should work together, you understand, to be able to change our country. Irrespective of where you are, throw yourself to the open. Let's keep on talking about these things. And I'm sure our leaders, they have listening ears and will be able to change situations of things. So I'm happy again that you raised the issue of equipment leasing. That has been paramount, and those are some of the things. Matthew, you remember when we started discussion, I engaged you on that. You understand that that's one major issue. And some of us have started engaging the African US American Council, you understand, on equipment leasing. And I'm sure that some of the investors are, you understand, diasporans are thinking of intervening in that area, because they make their money. It's a win-win situation for them, you understand. So thank you again, Madam Salah, for that, for raising up that point. Dr. Omoge will be the last person, because I'm sure our time is overspent, and we are happy to call you on board to give your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you for all you do. Dr. Matz and my lady, you have done a great exposition. There's no end to learning. You people keep expanding our minds to what is across the borders, so that we know what to do in our own climate. In Nigeria, the very best of miner can almost be called an artisanal miner, because like she said, if you go to the DRC, it is so capital intensive and the government is very involved, such that people will not just come and pillage the society. No, the state government, the community, everybody benefits from it. So we will look where, we will want to see where our regulators are able to help us formalize the mining sector, so that each community benefits from what is there. Not just people come with a chopper or a private jet in the night, pack all that has been done. What is the giving back to the society? It is not encouraging. Let those who, you know, God has blessed with solid minerals be partakers of it. So I would like to see where we can advocate more for something like a derivation benefit, such that whoever, whether foreigner, especially foreigners, would be committed to a minimal percentage of investment in that community, not to mine the community, devastate it, and go back. In DRC, you must fill back land. You must make arrangements to ensure that there will be no earth movement after you have left. So my first point is, how can we advocate for mining communities to get a certain percentage of the amount they make invested back in the community? Then the second one is this issue of double taxation. Mining itself is a struggle. And every day we keep talking about double taxation. I was very happy when you mentioned it. These women are struggling. Every level of tax such that the taxation overlaps, and it is very discouraging. Government, through the central bank, gave micro, small, and medium enterprises loan to Nigerians. 60% is for women. The remaining 40% is for others, including women. Why can't we do the same thing for women in taxation? Give them a special tax regime. Give them special tax incentive. Once you are known to be a miner in Nigeria, you will list the maximum types of taxes they can pay. You will give them a special concession on the amount of tax they can pay. Beyond that, women who go to the mining site with their children, if there's arrangement for children from the tax that has been collected from miners to build, basic facilities for those, I think will be the better for it. So thank you for all you do. This is just the beginning of advocacy. We can do more, we can get more. Dr. Aremu, my boss from the bank, God bless you. I believe that some of our regulators are here. The women need support. Alone, we cannot stand. We need anchor. We need to hold one another up, and we need to prepare a platform if we want to see our women compete with women internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Omage, for that wonderful conclusion, because I call it the conclusion, you understand, of the matter. You understand, when you talk about derivative benefits, you understand, derivative benefits is a very elaborate thing, because under it you look at livelihood opportunities, job opportunities, gender issues, and quite a number of other related topics. So we hope that our continuous engagement, you understand, with government from different shades, from different sides, you understand, we open up the system and improve the opportunity for women. And any nation that neglects 50% of its population is going nowhere in terms of development. So I hope that one day we will see the need, because when you talk about women in mining, most times people think you are talking about the mining itself as in mining. Oftentimes it's not even about the mining, but you are looking at the vulnerability of these people whose lives are turned upside down as a result of mining operations. You go to sites, you see they are the victims, they are the laborers, they are the ones whose health are really tampered with, their fortunes destroyed, you understand, because they don't even understand. Some of them are not too educated, and people take advantage of that. So I hope in this course of this discussion, things will start getting better. Do you have your last word for Matt? Your last word, and then the Auntie Faith, I will come to you for your last word before we close down for today's session. Yeah, Matt, can you unmute Matt, please? Dollarine, can you unmute Matt?
Yes, no, yeah.
Okay. I just want to say thank you a lot for allowing me to come on here and discuss a little snapshot of what have we been up to here in Kenya and on the greater, bringing together this conversation and joining us, Janet, you on the Global Community Mining Forum. I'm very impressed with what you've organized here. That's my first time joining you guys, and just learned a lot just seeing how you lay out your format and the power of your group here. Just more excited to work with you than ever. So thank you for the opportunity, and yeah, I can't wait to keep working with you in the future as well. So thank you.
And we love women in mining. Look toward that strong collaboration. You understand, the most important thing. I'm happy that chairman is here. Good, you understand, to change the world, make impact, exchange, build up trade linkages, build up knowledge, side stream, upstream, downstream, several things to do together. And Nigeria is a very I want to equally use this medium to talk about Nigeria for just 1 minute. Most times we should be discouraged about what we read in the papers. Oh, people tell you they are cutting the people's heads everywhere. They are doing this. I was in Jos in, what month was that? We were in Jos for the 59th annual conference of NMGS. That's Nigeria Mining and Geosciences Society. And we did that. I can't say anywhere where anybody is killing. Every country has the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when we read things in the papers and get frightened about that, I know that doesn't apply to you, but I'm talking to some other people because I know Mitchell, you know, from Atlanta is here, and some other people I'm trying to get interested into the mining sector in Nigeria for social development. So you see, Nigeria is not, in fact, one of the most friendly countries you can think of in the world is Nigeria, where you come and you can see our music all over the place. So the same thing, Nigerians are willing to cooperate with people and they are trustworthy people. We might have issues or challenges just like any other developing country, and you can't treat those challenges in isolation because, again, you can see that the West, you know, equally have their hands in them. So we look forward to better collaboration, stronger ties, you know, to be able to share knowledge with one another. Auntie Faith, I hope my Auntie Faith's line is still on because I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you, speaking in tongues.
Good evening, thank you so much.
Yeah,
where you stopped, because the fact is that we need to be patriotic enough to know that Nigeria is really a huge potential, not just for us, as Nigerians, but the entire community globally. And then for those of us, especially the women, we cannot overemphasize the need for collaboration. We need to work closely together. We need to tackle these issues together, because when you work together, you achieve more. Like they say, team together, everyone achieves more. So thank you very much. We'll continue to learn and build each other, and I'm sure that one day we'll get it right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Auntie Faith. On this note, Nigeria in 2030, the population is estimated to be almost 250 million. And the youth population in Nigeria, which is our human capital, which is our resource, which is our gold mine. You understand? That's the gold mine of Nigeria, because our youths are knowledgeable, our youths are smart. So any country who really wants to develop, any country who really wants to expand, enlarge, we find Nigerians there. And I can tell you, here in US, get to all the hospitals. They say, oh, you want to see a consultant, they might call the name wrongly. They can call Dag, but you find out that you are seeing a Nigerian. Get to Canada, you are seeing a Nigerian. Nigerians are topping the charts all over the place. So Nigerians are good people. Nigerians, and likewise, I can tell you that in another 5-10 years, the mining industry will be surprised and amazed to see huge companies coming out of Nigeria. So Nigeria is a good country to work with. Nigeria is a good country to live in, and Nigeria relates very well with people. We want to thank everybody that participated in this program. We look forward to seeing you third week next month, third week of next month as usual. And we come up with another exciting topic on sustainability and livelihood. So thank you once again. Good night, everybody. I know you have a very tough day, especially for those who went for the Nigerian Gem Show. You understand? And we look forward to a very, very robust mining destination in Nigeria. When Nigeria lays hands on anything, trust Nigeria, they will excel. So I have absolute confidence that Nigeria will be great in mining. Thank you. God bless you all. Bye-bye. Doreen, you can unmute everybody and continue to play the video so that the welcome video, so whoever wants to watch the video can stay behind and watch the video or track it on YouTube. Yeah. Put on the video again.
Our destination is at
Ijesha, and brought back this report.
On the 15th of January 2022, when the world was just settling into a new year, TVC News crew set out for a journey to Osun State. Our destination is at Nwadishi in Atakomosa East local government area of the southwest state.
Since 1601, and there's no development. I don't think we're asking for too much.
The mission was to unravel the mystery behind operation of illegal gold mining and refining by foreign nationals, particularly some Chinese. Illegal gold mining and refining thrive in Osun State, one of the states in Nigeria with a large deposit of the precious metal. It has become a corrupt den involving highly placed officials from the federal, state to local government levels, as well as residents and families in Atorin-Jasha. Gold is a chemical compound that was discovered approximately 6000 BC in the Middle East. It is formed underneath the earth through a process called the R process, which means rapid neutron capture in supernova nucleosynthesis. The color of gold varies due to its quality or carat difference, but generally, it is a bright yellowish metal. Gold can be used for the production of electronics, jewelries, furniture, utensils, stationery, medicine, cars, phones, and more. It was discovered in Osun State.
Way before Nigeria got its independence. And since that period, there's been several efforts to develop that sector.
Finally, we arrived at Atorin-Jasha. It is a community made up of 16 villages. The people are predominantly farmers. They survive on large-scale production of cocoa, palm fruits, rubber, kola nut, cashew, plantain, and others. We were received by the traditional ruler of the town, the Alatori of Atorin-Jasha, Oba Omololu Ibitoye Afilaka. After short exchange of pleasantries and briefing about the situation by the traditional ruler, we proceeded to the Jasha police station to get some security backup for the journey into the interior parts of the village where the mining sites are located. The traditional ruler presented some letters he had written to the government, raising the alarm on proliferation of arms in his community. Oba Afilaka took us through the various landmarks in his community. We finally got to the first mining site in the heart of Atorin-Jasha. We met two mobile police officers on site, whose job is to prevent intruders from gaining